God's chosen people. Now, if you look at Hosea, when he talks about the word of the Lord, the inhabitants of the children of Israel, and when he talks about the controversy with the inhabitants of the land, not only is he talking about America, but he's talking about every land on earth. God has a controversy with you because, number one, and this is not only just in America, this is everywhere, there is no truth. Truth is what gets people from under oppression. Now, there are a lot of churches today, and there are churches on every corner. There are churches in between. There are churches over here and churches over there. And not all these churches are really giving the people the truth. God seeks truth because God is truth. And this is one of the first requirements God is asking the church and his people to do. Is truth. Truth is what put people together. Truth is what's resurrecting the black man and black woman out of their mental and spiritual sleep and into a new knowledge that they have been cut off from in the past, and setting them up on a righteous path back to the Creator. Now, you can shun the truth all you want to. You can run from it. You can say, well, I don't want to hear that. You can say, well, he's way ahead of his time. You can say what you want to, but it's all going to boil back down to what God says about us and what we are doing or we're not doing. And if we're out of truth, and if we're out of cycle, then we got to get back into truth. We got to get back into the cycle. Because ain't no way around it. Ain't no sidestepping, ain't no other remedy, ain't no other way around it but God. Now, without this truth, we're all blind. We're all deaf and we're dumb. And there's no mercy. Number two. I mean, there's no mercy. People don't have no mercy anymore. I was watching TV the other day. This man, it happened a few years ago, but this man, he was going with this girl, and she was pregnant by him, and he didn't want the child. And he was an athlete, making all kind of money. And he had this woman killed, and she was about 6 to 8 months pregnant with his child. And he had this young girl killed. No mercy at all. And when he went to court, you looked at his face, he didn't show no remorse whatsoever. As if what he was doing was a mercy killing. But he killed that young girl and that unborn child. And you can go on and see some of the things that's happened to our people, not only by our own hand, but by the hands of others, things with no mercy. And God is looking at it. There's no mercy, there's no truth in the land. All y'all here, get your hands up and shout a bit. Look like there's no mercy, and there's no truth. Number 3. No knowledge. And what y'all have here is a place where you can come and get all the knowledge about anything and everything you want to hear about. And you can't say you can go to 10 or 20 churches in a row and find the knowledge that you're getting here at W.R.T. Am I right about you? Talk to me. Because we are a special ministry set aside by God for this day and this hour. And by the way, before it slipped my mind, I want you, Sister Hagger, to get some of them DVDs or VHS tapes and get them to me as quick as possible. Me down through the years, we're going to put all of it on YouTube so others around the world can hear the truth. And see, I told y'all, we're not just a town home or down home ministry. We are a worldwide ministry. I've been getting response from England, Europe, Britain, Russia, China, Africa, Australia, that people enjoy what they hear and what they see. It was just a matter of time God was going to change this thing around. See, you got to go down in the valley sometime before you can go back on the mountaintop. And I always say, the lilies are sweeter in the valley. When you go through your trials and tribulations and tests, God makes you and see what you're made out of and see if you're willing to hold up under pressure. And we went through, we've been through hell and hot water in this ministry. But God has blessed us to survive. And we're here. And we are ministering to the nation. I can say we're ministering not just to America, but we are ministering to the nations of the earth. Because I am a resident of this earth, you are a resident of this earth, and you have a right to speak what God gives you, whether people hear it or whether they don't. So when you leave here and stand before your Maker, He's going to ask you, why didn't you speak? Why were you silent? Why didn't you stand up for what was right? See, that won't be a question asked me, because I'm getting the blood stains off my hands, and my shoulders will not be dripping with blood, because I will open my mouth and tell the people the truth, whether they want to hear it or whether they don't want to hear it. I got to tell you like it is. There is no knowledge of God in the land. And here you have a nation, America, where they exclude God out of the school system. They exclude God out of the politics. They exclude God out of their social societies. And God is absent in particularly every form of every walk of life that we participate in every day. How is it that you got money that you circulate every day and you got written on there, "In God we trust," but you won't put God in the school system? You won't put God in politics. You won't put God in anything that you associate yourself with on a daily basis, but on your money it said, "In God we trust." What God are you talking about? Is it the God that we serve, or is it the God of money? What God are you talking about? But they exclude God in practically everything that we do. And when God is not a part of any criteria or your standards, then whatever you do in terms of school, society, politics, government, or religion, it will not work right. And I don't care how hard you try to make it work, it just won't work when God is not in it. And there are a lot of marriages where God was not at the forefront of it. And those marriages are on the rock, or those marriages are just existing. But they're not fruitful, they're not multiplying, and they're not bringing forth any fruits. They just got together. But when God is in a marriage, that marriage will last, and that marriage will be fruitful. I don't care what you do. When you put God at the forefront of it, it's got to work. Are y'all here? Now this is the problem the people have today. First, you don't have no truth. We don't have no mercy. And you don't have the knowledge of God in the land. This is why corruption is everywhere. This is why dope is in our communities. This is why young boys and young girls are getting together having babies. Babies having babies. And this is why a little girl can go into an abortion clinic 6 months pregnant and come out without it. Because there's no truth, there's no mercy, and there's no knowledge of God in the land. Everything goes. No bars hold. You can do anything you want to today It's okay. Because that's where society is today. Because there is no truth, there is no mercy, and there is no knowledge of God in the land. But when you get truth, mercy, and knowledge of God in the land, people will do the right thing. People are going to live right. And you won't have to force or preach to people to live right when there's truth, mercy, and knowledge of God in the land. I remember all the messages I've given down through the years, all the altar calls. Sin, 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 sin. That's practically all I preached on. Sin, sin. Come out of your sin. Come out of your shackles. Come out of this. Come out of that. Because people have a nature of doing what they want to do and not putting God in anything they do. That's the nature of people today. They've gone away from God, and when you turn on the TV, all you see is all kind of stuff without God in it. You don't see any programs where God is at the forefront of it. You don't see any programs where God is magnified, where God is talked about. All you see is all these programs. They got their little egos and they're doing their little thing, and everybody watches that stuff. Especially soap operas. I mean, this stuff is so mind-boggling. I mean, I don't see what they get out of it. You know, you sit there watching these folks doing all this devious stuff, stealing each other's husbands and wives, and committing adultery and committing murder and stealing businesses from others. All this stuff, it enters your mind, and whether you know it or not, subconsciously, you're being set up for a failure by watching that, because it's going to come up in your life again, somewhere. Because what you watch, what you attend yourself to, is going to be a part of you. And if you sit up and watch negative things all day long, guess what you're going to be? A negative person. You will have negative things in your life. But if you watch positive things and stay on a positive note with everybody, I don't care if somebody come to you on the negative side. I found a secret how to get them positive. And I'm going to share that secret with you today. You may not ever hear this again, but you're going to hear it here. When somebody comes to you and you're positive and you're doing good, you're happy and you're joyful, and some people just can't stand for you to be joyful or happy. They want you to be down in the dumps like they are. So they will come with a negative word to try to get you on the negative. You're doing good, or you're happy, God is blessing you, and here they come today. And they're trying to get you on a negative vibe, just like they are. Hear what you do. When they start complaining and bringing negative things to you, the first thing you ask is, what can we do to make it better? And you will see in their face, their mind, the gears in their mind are changing, and you will win them over to the positive side, because they don't know how to answer that. When you say, okay, if it's that bad, what can we do? Or what is the solution that we can fix this? And immediately, that person will change from the negative to the positive, because you have, what you call it, when you extinguish a fire, you have extinguished that negativity by saying, what can we do to remedy this situation? And that's all you need to do when somebody comes to you on a negative kick. But be positive and be sure of who you are. Know who you are. Embrace who you are. Exalt yourself. Because if you don't, nobody else will. I'm not telling you to always go around tooting your horn and ringing bells and blowing whistles for yourself, but lift yourself up, because if you don't, nobody else will. And if you choose to be down in the dumps, there are a lot of people like to be down in the dumps. And you'll get a crowd. A lot of people like to dump, but not me. I can't hang around negative stuff. People talking negative always in the doubt. And when you ask them, well, I can't afford to do that. I can't go here. Well, look, I ain't talking to you. I'm talking to those that can't. Are y'all here today? Now, many today, and I can say our people, they're rushing at breakneck speed along the collision course of extension. Only an immediate return to righteous cycles of God can save us from ourselves. And everything suffers under wicked rulers, which is man. Vegetation, the beasts of the field, everything we witness more and more, species on and natural vegetation and animals added to the list of those facing extinction. And the terrible irony of it is that the greatest culprit and agent of their death is man. Man is the cause of death everywhere. You got big great whales floating up on the banks, dead. You got dolphins are dying. You got fish in the sea are dying everywhere. You got wildlife or extinction, bears, gorillas, orangutans, all these animals on the list of extinction because of man. He goes in and cut down the rainforest just to build a hotel, just to trample and pollute it. This is not progress. This is death. He's ignorant of the misuse of his environment or his arrogant pursuit of sport and trophy. I read an article about chemtrails. Anybody know what chemtrails are? As long as y'all been here down here, you ever heard me talk about chemtrails?
Airplane way up in the sky making trails.
Have you ever looked up in the sky and saw these crisscross lines and stuff like that, like tic-tac-toe? And you ever saw a plane way up with a tail, a white cloud behind it? You ever saw that? Those are called chemtrails. Now, this has been on the news regularly. This has been on the news recently. Chemtrails, they're putting chemicals in these planes. They're putting bacteria, viruses, and all type of deadly chemicals, and they're spraying them over major cities in America. One man, he put a jar of water on his lung. When he saw them chemtrails in the sky, and the next day he went out there and got it, and the stuff had settled in this jar at the bottom. It was black. And he took it to a chemical place where he had it analyzed. And you'd be surprised what they found in this water. The chemicals they found. It was arsenic. It was all type of bacteria and viruses. It was even red blood cells, human blood cells, and all type of deadly other chemicals I can't even name right now in this water that came out of the sky from these chemtrails. And they've been doing it for years. And I used to watch. I said, now what are they doing? Why are all those planes up there making all those crisscrosses in the sky? And I went on the internet and I looked it up and I found out they were chemtrails. And guess who's doing it? Your government. What are they trying to do? They're trying to depopulate this planet. People, we are faced with a beast that have no mercy. no knowledge of God, no truth. This beast is killing millions of people. Not only they put disease in African countries, but they're now working on American people. They don't care whether you're white, black, brown, red, or yellow. They are pursuing a depopulation of planet Earth. Now, let me show something else with you. Any of y'all heard of this new sun they spotted? It's another sun. We don't just have one sun, we got two suns now. And at a certain time, you can see this sun. It's getting closer to the earth. It is an actual sun that emits radiation. And there are certain ways you can photograph this new sun at a certain time. And people have photographed it. All you have to do is go online, look it up, and you find out they photographed this sun. And there are people that are worried about their existence on this planet, whether they would be able to survive on this planet because of this other sun that's coming. Now, the sun that we already have is emitting high doses of radiation right now. Each year, the weather is changing and it's getting hotter and hotter. So that means the earth is getting closer to the sun. So therefore, certain people on the planet can't handle all that radiation. But people with melanin, it's no problem. But those that don't have melanin, they will either have to leave the planet or go underground. And I found that they're building cities underground. All across the country, there are cities actually being built underground because they know something's getting ready to happen. The weather has changed. Look at all these tornadoes, earthquakes, fires, hurricanes. All these things are just the beginning of sorrow. The Bible speaks about it. Matthew 24th chapter. In the last days, there's going to be signs, wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, wars, famine. All these are the beginning of sorrow. And we are in the beginning of sorrow right now. These things were prophesied before any of us come on the planet. These things were prophesied before the Bible was written. These things were prophesied in ancient times, and they are coming to pass. Are y'all still here? Now, as I said, the rhinoceros under the threat for his horn. The Japanese slaughtered thousands of dolphins because the dolphins eat their fish. Even the great blue whale, the largest creature on this planet, is almost finished because of oil spills and air pollution. Death is everywhere, and no one escapes. And then the scriptures say in Mark 13:20, and except the Lord has shortened those days, no flesh shall be saved, but for the elect's sake, whom he had chosen, he had shortened days. Y'all quiet.
Amen.
And there are those who in their own simple way, they see the approaching apocalypse and fear God by asking his help, his truth, and his salvation. And man is searching diligently for ways and means of escaping this Holocaust outside the realms of God's plan. He can't escape it. But he shall not succeed. For God in his own way, there should be no hiding place. Because the world of man is constipated from continually consuming poison doctrine, poison philosophy, poison ideologies, and the consumption of these poisons has broken down the organism where they cannot properly function. And as the organisms where they cannot properly function, the results, the world is suffering from a terminal disease of wickedness. This is why the words in the New Age truth, which we are reading now, are not really words, but are the first steps in the world healing process. So as you digest and assimilate this information, you become eligible to join the evolutionary corrective force. And those whose spirits, minds, and hearts have been formed by and given the protection of the divine principles of love, truth, justice, mercy, equity, and peace. Now the corrective force, having cleansed the internal environment, which is the mind, and restored balance to the internal ecology, which is the body, can then pass on the salvation of self-world leadership and intelligent philosophies, and thus the earth will be restored to its natural state of divine health and well-being that God has intended. If you would take heed, you will see your lifetime that the righteous cycles of life will overcome the unrighteous cycles of death forever. Why do you think there's so many people talking about what I'm talking about? I've listed at least about 25 to 30 people on YouTube are talking about the same thing that I've been preaching for the last 25 years. That video I showed about a month ago here called Hidden Colors, that has awakened so many people mentally and spiritually that they brought out a part 2. And they're working on a part 3 because they go through all the books and break it down elementary so you will understand history. As Sister Hagg was talking about, you need to understand your history. All people of the planet has a history. You have European history, you have Aborigine, Australian history, you have Greek history, you have African history, you have all these different nations around the world, they have history. And they tell me a person without knowledge of their history is like a tree without roots. It's dead. Now that don't mean for you just to live in the past, in your history. But you need to know your history, your past. And you can make an intelligent decision to move on to the future. But if you don't know what happened in the past, you don't know what can happen in the present and in the future. So you need to know who you are and where you fit in history. Because we were all told in their history books that our history began in slavery. And now we know that's a lie. We know that's untrue. Our history didn't just start when we came to America as slaves. As I said before, our history is so old, time has erased the beginnings. You can't find the beginnings of us. And we people this whole planet. So we are the beginners of everything on the planet. And you know what's happening? It's coming back to that because we are the only ones that can correct this planet force and all the corruption. We are the only ones that God commission when he created us and told us to have dominion, subdue, replenish this earth, take care of it. But you let it go. Somebody stole it from you. And now they made a mess of it. Everything is off. The weather, the seasons, everything is off. Now it's up to you, it's up to me to get it back in working order, in divine order. That's us. Ain't no other people can be called the eternal people but us. And we're the only ones that can correct it and get everything back working. Don't be fooled by what they tell you. Since they got all these powerful weapons and they invented this and done this, they've been to the moon, so what? These are toys. These are little bitty things that don't make a hill of beans to what we did in ancient times. We had lasers, we had things they never thought or dreamed of. When they went into the tombs of Egypt and found these airplanes and found these ships and found all these things, submarines and space suits and all these things in the tombs of Egypt, they saw them. This is how they can mimic our history and capitalize on it. Because we did it first. And if we did it first, we can do it again. Even in our low state. They thought we'd never rise. They thought we'd never get up. They thought we'd never come back to our right mind. But what God created, what God put in you, what God put in me, there's no force on earth can totally destroy it. Because you are the beginning. You're the first. You're the last. You're Alpha. You're Omega. And never forget that. Now we're just using religion, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam right now to get our footing. But guess what? Back in ancient times, there wasn't no such thing as Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. We didn't go to no church. We didn't go to no temple. We didn't need all that stuff. We knew who we were. We didn't need no church. We didn't need nobody to save us. All these are just tools of control to dominate the world and the minds of the people. But we're coming out. We're waking up. I pray for my brother, Barack Obama. He made a decision to man somebody else's store. He made a decision to become a pharaoh in the wrong time. He's the pharaoh of the planet. Because when you're president of the United States, that means you are the leader of the whole planet. Because America is the most powerful nation on the planet. Can wipe out any nation just like that. Even though he was chosen before he was elected president. I know this, I'm telling you this. But he's in a position now, if he would make a decision, this whole earth would change in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. If he would make one decision and carry it out. He's from that seed that go back for generations and generations and generations. But yet he just chose the wrong time to become a pharaoh. And he cannot use his power. Because if he did, he'd be dead tomorrow. He belonged to us, and we need to pray for him. Yes, he made a mistake by wanting to be a president in this day and hour, which at what time? Even though we have a black president, it has not changed anything, has it? Why? It's because the powers that be give him his task on a daily basis, what he can do, what he cannot do, what he can say, what he cannot say. They groomed him, they chose him before they elected him. This is something you need to know. He ain't running things. He just maintaining the office of a president. But those that are higher up, the ones that run this planet, that rule governments around the world, they're in control. They're in full control. Kennedy thought he was in control. He was going to disrupt and stop printing money with the Federal Reserve. Anybody know what the Federal Reserve is? It's not a part of government. It is a private entity of rich men that was formed in 1913 and brought up to speed in 1933 when R.F.D. Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed into law that they would let the Federal Reserve print American money. See, the government's supposed to print their own money, but they allowed these little businessmen, these little Rothschilds, Rockefellers, all of these little powerful men to come in and take control of the money, because there's a saying, whoever controls the money makes the rules. And America ain't making no rules. The government ain't making no rules. There are people that high up the hidden hands. I wish I could go into it, but I'm not. But they run things. And a president don't run nothing. They're assassinating our brothers. They're teaching what I'm teaching. They're coming up dead. They're having strokes. They're having heart attacks. Shango recently passed away. There's a brother on the internet called Bob Hammond. He just had a stroke. He's a powerful brother. They tried to kill Farrakhan. They poisoned him. They tried to kill him. But he warned him. He said, come on with it. He said, you try to touch me. Do something to me. Try to come against me and hurt me. You watch God. This whole earth will go up in flames. And whether you know it or not, you may not agree with everything he teaches and talks and preaches about, but this is the man of the hour. This is the man that the government is so afraid of that they watch him constantly, day and night. They got satellite way up there watching every move he makes. They got satellite beaming in on his home where he lives. They got satellites everywhere. He goes and teaches and preaches all around the country and around the world. See, he goes to different nations. They come to him and say, well, who told you to go to Liberia? He said, look, I didn't know you were a slave where I have to come and ask you, can I go here, go there? He told him. So he's the number one on the list. Why? What year was that Million Man March? Was it 2005? Who do you know of out of all the people, including Dr. King, that have had rallies and that have had marches that could call 1 million men to Washington in a peaceful manner? Who do you know other than him could do that? Talk to me. Marcus Garvey didn't even do that. In 1919, he had a lot of people, but he couldn't do that. Dr. King didn't do that. Malcolm couldn't do that. This man brought together in a peaceful way over 1 million brothers. Now that's not including the sisters. The sisters didn't come, but some sisters did show up. But just 1 million men. Now that kind of power Don't you think a government will be watching you? And go walk on eggshells and not just come right out and assault you? It's powerful. People, in the next few months, we're going to see some changes in America and around the world taking place. Not because they want these changes. It's because nature and God is going to bring about these changes in the earth. America is Babylon. And America is coming home. In other words, America is dying. And along with America's death, other nations that have been in the bed with America are going to die too. This is a prophecy. And I'm closing. I like to say I appreciate every one of you. And if I haven't told you lately that I love you, I love every last one of you. And I thank God for your support. Every one of you. Down through the years, you supported the ministry in your own way. And I recognize that and I appreciate that. And I know God's got work for you to do with this ministry. But I want to say thank you. And I'm praying that God bless you and keep you in everything that you do. And I'm praying that God give you 20 or 30 more years of life to live on this planet, to see the change. Now they say I had a birthday, but I don't recognize birthdays because I don't believe in age. And when you believe that you're getting old, guess what? That's just rudimentary. When you think that you're old and decrepit and dying, guess what happens? You call on your own death and demise by what you think. So always remember that. That's why I don't go by numbers. I always say I'm 19, and I'll be 19 for the next 1900 years. I don't believe in birthdays getting old. I don't feel old. Matter of fact, when I look in the mirror, I don't look old. Not to myself. The other people may say, well, you're aging. Well, that's what you see. But what I see is different than what you see. Are y'all here? Shout out to you, man. But if you want to celebrate birthdays, it's fine. I know. And God did. How many enjoyed the word today?